I worked 2 jobs for 3 years to save up for my 2018 Honda Civic. That car was not just a vehicle, it was my first real achievement proof that I could build something on my own. The paint was navy blue, the interior smelled like new possibilities, and every time I turned the key, I felt like I had finally made it. I never imagined that my own parents would try to send me to prison to protect my little brother. Before I get into what happened, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever felt like the black sheep in your family, hit that like button. And subscribe, because this story shows what happens when family loyalty crosses a dangerous line. Let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Darwin. I am 28 years old and I work as an accountant at a small firm in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio. Nothing fancy, just steady work that pays the bills and lets me live independently. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 21, the day after I graduated college. I wanted to prove I could make it on my own. So I rented a 1-bedroom apartment on the east side, furnished it with second-hand furniture, and started building my life piece by piece. The Civic was the crown jewel of that life. I saved every extra dollar I could. I skipped vacations, ate ramen more nights than I care to admit, and picked up weekend shifts whenever they were available. When I finally had enough for a down payment, I walked into that dealership feeling like a king. The salesman probably thought I was crazy with how excited I got over a mid-range sedan, but I did not care. That car was mine. I washed it every Sunday morning, kept the maintenance schedule religiously, and never let anyone eat inside it. That car represented freedom, independence, and self-respect. My family, on the other hand, represented something else entirely. My younger brother Kyle was 22 and still living at home with our parents. He had bounced between community college classes and part-time jobs for years, never sticking with anything long enough to build momentum. Our father Richard managed a hardware store downtown. He was a stern man, the kind who believed in hard work, but somehow never applied that philosophy equally to both his sons. Our mother Patricia stayed home and ran the household. She was softer than Dad, always ready with excuses and second chances. The difference in how they treated us had always been clear. When I was in high school, I had to get a job to pay for my own car insurance and gas. Kyle got handed the keys to Mom's old sedan whenever he wanted. When I needed help with college tuition, Dad told me to figure it out with loans and scholarships. When Kyle dropped out of his 3rd semester, they paid for him to try again at a different school. I was the responsible one, the one who did not need help. Kyle was the one who needed protecting, guiding, saving, the golden child who could do no wrong. I tried not to let it bother me. I told myself that their favoritism made me stronger, more independent, and for the most part, I believed it, until the day Kyle asked to borrow my car. It was a Thursday evening in late September. I had just gotten home from work, changed into sweatpants, and was heating up leftover pasta when my phone rang. Kyle's name flashed on the screen. "Darwin, hey, I need a favor," he said, without even saying hello first. "What kind of favor?" "My car is making this weird noise and I do not trust it. I have a job interview tomorrow morning in Akron. Can I borrow your car just for a few hours? I will have it back by 8 at night, I promise." I hesitated. Lending out my car felt wrong on a gut level. But this was my brother, and he said it was for a job interview. Maybe this was his chance to finally turn things around. "All right," I said. "But I need it back by 8. I have plans Saturday morning." "Absolutely, man. Thank you. You are the best." The next day, Kyle showed up at my apartment around noon. I went over everything with him. Keep it under 70 on the highway. Do not eat in the car. Check the mirrors before changing lanes. He rolled his eyes like I was being ridiculous, but he nodded along. When he drove away, I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach that I could not explain. 8 o'clock came and went. No Kyle, no text, no call. I tried reaching him 3 times, straight to voicemail. By 10 o'clock I was furious. By 11 I was worried. Finally, at 11:23, I heard my car pull into the parking lot. I met him outside. The first thing I noticed was the gas gauge. I had filled the tank that morning. Now it was nearly empty. The second thing I noticed was a fresh scratch along the rear bumper about 6 inches long, cutting through the paint down to the metal. "What happened?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Kyle shrugged. "What do you mean, the scratch? And where is all the gas?" "Dude, that scratch was already there. You probably just did not notice it before." "No, it was not." "Well, I did not do it. And I drove to Akron and back. That is like 70 miles round trip. Of course I used some gas." I wanted to argue. I wanted to grab him and make him admit what he had done. But I was tired. And fighting with Kyle never led anywhere productive. "Just be more careful next time," I muttered. "There is not going to be a next time if you are going to act like this," he shot back. Then he tossed me the keys and walked to his own car. I should have known then that things would only get worse. But I am an optimist by nature, even when I should not be. I told myself it was a one-time thing. Kyle would not ask again. I was wrong. The following week, he called again. This time he needed the car to drive to see his girlfriend in Canton. I said no, politely but firmly. He got quiet for a moment, then his voice turned cold. "Seriously? I am your brother." "I know, but last time you brought it back late with no gas and scratched." "I told you that scratch was not me. Why do you have to be such a jerk about everything?" He hung up. 10 minutes later my mother called. "Darwin, your brother said you would not help him out. What is going on?" I explained the situation, the late return, the damage, the empty tank. She listened, then sighed in that disappointed way that made me feel like I was 10 years old again. "Honey, he is your brother. He needs your help. Why are you being so selfish about a car?" That word, selfish. It hit me like a punch. I had worked myself to exhaustion to buy that car. I maintained it. I respected it. And I was selfish for not wanting to hand it over to someone who clearly did not care. "Mom, it is my property." I am not being selfish. I am setting boundaries. "Well, it is hurting your brother's feelings. Just think about that." She hung up before I could respond. Against my better judgment, I let Kyle borrow the car again 2 days later. I told myself I was being the bigger person. When he brought it back, the pattern repeated. More miles than necessary. Trash in the back seat. A faint smell of beer that I pretended not to notice. When I confronted him, he accused me of being controlling. Dad called me that night. "Your brother says you are giving him a hard time." "What is this about?" "I am not giving him a hard time. I am just asking him to respect my things." "He is family, Darwin. Family helps each other. You used to understand that." "I still do, but this is not help. This is him taking advantage." My father went silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was ice. "You have changed since you moved out. You have gotten selfish. I am disappointed in you." Then he hung up, and he did not speak to me for a week. That was when I made my decision. No more lending the car, no more being guilted into sacrificing my boundaries to keep the peace. I told Kyle directly. I told my parents. The response was predictable. Kyle called me selfish. Mom cried. Dad gave me the silent treatment. But I held firm. My car, my rules. I even took precautions. I had a spare key that I kept in a locked drawer in my bedroom. I made sure it stayed there. What I did not account for was how far my family would go to get what they wanted. It was a Friday night in mid-October. I got home from work around 6:15, exhausted from a long week of balancing budgets and filing reports. I parked my car in my usual spot in front of my apartment building, locked it carefully, and went inside. I made dinner, watched a movie, and fell asleep on the couch around 10:30. Saturday morning, I woke up at 7. I had plans to drive to the gym, then grab breakfast with a friend. I grabbed my keys, walked outside, and froze. My car was gone. At first, I thought I was misremembering where I parked. I walked up and down the lot, checking every row. Nothing. My heart started racing. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts. I asked a neighbor who was loading groceries into his trunk. "Did you see my blue Honda Civic?" He scratched his head. "Yeah, actually. I saw some young guy get in it and drive off around midnight, maybe 12:30. I figured it was you or someone you lent it to." My stomach dropped. I ran back inside and checked the locked drawer where I kept my spare key. It was open. The key was gone. 3 weeks earlier, Kyle had stopped by my apartment unannounced. He said he was in the neighborhood and wanted to catch up. I let him in, made us coffee, and we talked for maybe 20 minutes. At one point, I went to the bathroom. He was alone in my living room. That was when he must have taken the key. I called Kyle immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I called again, and again, nothing. I tried my mother. "Have you seen Kyle?" I asked, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. "He is asleep upstairs." "Why?" "Can you check?" She sighed, annoyed. "Hold on." A minute later she came back. "He is not in his room, but his car is still in the garage. He probably went for a walk." A walk? Right. I hung up and dialed 911. The operator answered. I explained the situation. My car was missing. I suspected my brother had taken it without permission. She took down the information and said an officer would follow up. I gave them the license plate number, the make and model, and a description of Kyle. Then I sat down on my couch and waited. The anger came first, then the hurt, then something colder. A realization that my own brother had stolen from me, and my parents somehow would find a way to make it my fault. Around 3 in the afternoon, Kyle finally called. His voice was shaking. "Darwin, I messed up. I am so sorry. Where is my car? I cannot tell you yet." "Kyle, where is my car? I will explain everything. Just do not be mad, okay? Do not be mad you stole my car. Where is it?" He started crying, actual tears. "I am sorry. I am so sorry." Then he hung up. I tried calling back. No answer. My hands were shaking. I wanted to drive to my parents' house and drag him out by his collar. But I did not have a car, so I waited. And I seethed. That evening my father called. His voice was calm, controlled, the kind of calm that made my skin crawl. "Darwin, we need to talk about Kyle. Where is he? He is here, he is safe, but he made a mistake, a big one, and we need to handle this as a family." "He stole my car, Dad. I already called the police." There was a pause, then his voice turned cold. "You called the cops on your own brother. He stole my car. What did you expect me to do? I expected you to come to us first, to handle this like family, but instead you went straight to the authorities. Do you have any idea what you have done?" "What I have done? He is the one who committed a crime. He is your brother, and you just threw him under the bus." I could not believe what I was hearing. "Dad, he stole my car. I reported it. That is what anyone would do." "Anyone without loyalty, maybe. Your mother is heartbroken. You are tearing this family apart." "I am tearing it apart. Are you serious right now?" He did not answer. He just hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like I had stepped into an alternate reality where I was the villain for being the victim. Sunday morning I got the call I had been dreading. It was a police detective named Ramirez. "Mr. Darwin, we found your vehicle." Relief flooded through me. "Thank God." "Where?" "About 35 miles north of your location off Route 14. It was abandoned on the side of the road." "Okay. Can I come pick it up?" "Not yet. The vehicle is being held as evidence. It was involved in a hit-and-run incident last night. A pedestrian was injured." My blood went cold. "What?" "The car struck a man crossing the street around 1:35 in the morning. The driver fled the scene. The victim is in the hospital with serious injuries. We need to ask you some questions." "I was not driving. My car was stolen. I filed a report yesterday morning." "We are aware of the report, but we need you to come down to the station. Can you do that?" I said yes. I hung up. And then I sat there trying to process what was happening. Kyle had not just taken my car for a joyride. He had hurt someone. And now I was being pulled into it. At the police station, Detective Ramirez led me into an interrogation room. It felt surreal. The gray walls, the metal table, the mirror that I knew was one-way glass. He sat across from me, a folder in his hands. "Tell me about Friday night," he said. I walked him through everything, coming home from work, parking the car, going inside, waking up to find it missing, realizing Kyle had taken my spare key. He listened, taking notes, his expression unreadable. "We spoke to your family this morning," he said when I finished. "They told us a different story." My heart sank. "What did they say?" "They said you lent your brother the car Friday afternoon. He was driving it alone Friday night when the accident occurred. He panicked and called your father, who picked him up and brought him home. Then this morning you reported the car stolen to cover for yourself, to avoid legal responsibility and insurance liability." I could not breathe. I could not think. "That is not true. That is not what happened." "Why would your family lie about this?" "Because they are protecting Kyle. They have always protected him. He is the golden child. I am the one who does not matter." Detective Ramirez studied me for a long moment. "The victim is in critical condition. If he does not make it, this becomes a manslaughter case. Whoever was driving that car is facing serious prison time. Do you understand that it was not me? I was home all night. Can anyone verify that I live alone, but I have security footage from my building? It will show I never left." He wrote that down. Then he leaned back in his chair. "Here is the problem, Mr. Darwin. Your car, your registration, 3 witnesses saying you lent it out. And now you are claiming it was stolen only after an accident occurred. That does not look good. Because they are lying, all 3 of them. Or you are lying to protect yourself." I realized then how bad this was. My own family had framed me. They had coordinated their stories, rehearsed their lies, and served me up to take the fall for Kyle's crime. And the police believed them. I spent hours at that station answering the same questions over and over. By the time they let me go, it was dark outside. I was not under arrest, not yet. But the detective made it clear I was the primary suspect. If the evidence pointed to me, I would be charged. I went home, and I did something I had never done before. I broke down. I cried. Not because I was scared of prison, though I was, but because my own parents, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, were willing to destroy my life to save Kyle's. And there was a part of me that wondered if I deserved it. If maybe I really was selfish like they said. If maybe I really had failed as a brother and a son. But then the anger came back, and with it, clarity. I was not going to let them do this to me. I was going to fight. Monday morning, I called a criminal defense attorney named Robert Hayes. His office was in downtown Cleveland on the 15th floor of a glass tower that made me feel small. But his handshake was firm and his eyes were sharp. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, occasionally jotting notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "This is a serious situation, but it is also solvable. We need to prove you were not driving that car. Do you have any evidence?" "I have security camera footage from my building." "Good. What else?" "My phone. I have location tracking turned on." "Even better. We will need to get ahead of this before the prosecutor decides to charge you. Let me make some calls." Over the next 2 days, Hayes worked quickly. He subpoenaed the security footage from my apartment building. The video showed me arriving home at 6:15 Friday evening. My car was visible in the parking lot. At 12:45 Saturday morning, a figure walked into the frame. It was clearly a young man, not me. He got into my car and drove away. The timestamp matched perfectly with when my neighbor said he saw someone take it. Hayes also pulled my phone's location history. It showed I had been at my apartment all night Friday. No movement, no travel. I was exactly where I said I was. But the most damning evidence came from the traffic cameras near the accident scene. Hayes requested the footage through a public records request. It took 3 days, but when it came through, it was clear. The camera captured my car running a red light at 1:32 in the morning. The driver's face was partially visible through the windshield. It was not me. The build was different. The hair was different. It was Kyle. With all this evidence in hand, Hayes scheduled a meeting with Detective Ramirez and the assistant district attorney assigned to the case. We sat in a conference room at the police station. Hayes laid out everything methodically: the security footage, the phone records, the traffic camera stills, the lies from my family. Ramirez looked uncomfortable. The ADA, a sharp woman named Caroline Finch, reviewed the materials without expression. "This is compelling," she said finally, "but we still need to talk to your brother and your father again." "By all means," Hayes said, "because this case is not against my client. It is against them." 2 days later, Kyle and my father were brought in for questioning, separately. Kyle cracked first. When confronted with the traffic camera footage, he broke down completely. He admitted everything. He had taken my spare key weeks earlier. Friday night, he and some friends had gone out drinking. He drove my car because his was not reliable. He was going too fast. He did not see the pedestrian until it was too late. The impact was sickening. The man flew across the hood and onto the pavement. Kyle panicked. He sped away, called Dad, and begged for help. My father arrived at the scene 20 minutes later. He saw the damage to the car. He listened to Kyle sob and plead. And then, instead of doing the right thing, he made a choice. He drove Kyle home. He came up with a plan. They would say I had lent Kyle the car. That way Kyle could claim it was an accident, that he panicked, but it would not be theft. And if they said I knew about it, I would be implicated too, pressured to go along with the cover-up. My father thought he was protecting his son, but what he was really doing was throwing me to the wolves. He convinced my mother to go along with it. She did not want to, but she loved Kyle, and she was scared, so she lied too. The case against me evaporated. Kyle was arrested and charged with hit and run, leaving the scene of an accident, driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, and lying to police. My father was charged with obstruction of justice, conspiracy to commit fraud, and making false statements to law enforcement. My mother was released without charges in exchange for her cooperation, but she was warned that any future lies would result in prosecution. I did not go to the courthouse when they were arraigned. I did not visit them in jail. I did not take their calls. I was done. The victim, a 47-year-old construction worker named Paul Jennings, survived. He spent 2 weeks in the hospital with a fractured pelvis, broken ribs, and a severe concussion. He would recover, but the trauma would stay with him forever. Kyle was ordered to pay restitution as part of his plea deal. My father hired a lawyer who tried to get the charges reduced, but the evidence was overwhelming. They both pled guilty. Kyle was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 5 years probation. His driver's license was suspended for 5 years. My father received 18 months. They would serve their time in separate facilities. I did not feel victorious. I felt hollow. In the weeks after the sentencing, I tried to return to normal life, but normal felt impossible. I changed my phone number. I blocked my entire family on every social media platform. I moved to a new apartment across town and did not tell anyone in my family the address. My mother sent emails, long rambling messages filled with apologies and justifications. She said she was sorry, that she was scared, that she never thought it would go this far, that I was still her son and she loved me. I read the first one, deleted the rest without opening them. My car was totaled. The front end was crushed. The windshield shattered, the frame bent. Insurance paid out, but it was not enough to replace it with something equivalent. I bought a used Toyota Corolla, a 2012 model with 130,000 miles on it. It ran fine, but every time I looked at it, I felt nothing. The joy I had felt with the Civic was gone. That car had represented something. This one was just transportation. The first few months were the hardest. I could not sleep. I had nightmares about being arrested, about sitting in a cell, about my life being destroyed. I jumped every time my phone rang, thinking it was the police with more questions. I started seeing a therapist, a kind, older woman named Dr. Emily Shaw. She helped me understand that what I was feeling was normal. Betrayal trauma, she called it. The people who were supposed to protect me had turned on me. That kind of wound does not heal quickly. I threw myself into work. I stayed late at the office, volunteered for extra projects, anything to keep my mind occupied. My boss noticed. 6 months after everything happened, she called me into her office and told me I was being promoted to senior accountant. It came with a raise and more responsibility. I should have been thrilled, but I just felt numb. My co-workers were kind. A few of them knew bits and pieces of what had happened. They invited me to happy hours, to weekend hiking trips, to backyard barbecues. I said no at first, but eventually I started saying yes. Slowly, I began to build a new life, one that did not revolve around the family I had lost. I joined a running club. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, a group of us would meet at a park and run 5 or 6 miles together. It was therapeutic. The rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement, the burn in my lungs, the endorphin rush afterward. I made friends there, real friends, people who did not know my history, who liked me for who I was not, who I was supposed to be. One of them, a guy named Travis, became my closest friend. He was a few years older than me, worked in IT, and had his own complicated family history. We bonded over beers one night, trading stories about the people who were supposed to love us but did not know how. It felt good to talk to someone who understood. Gradually, the nightmares faded. The anxiety lessened. I started sleeping through the night again. I laughed more. I felt lighter. And I realized something important. I did not need my family to be whole. I had spent so many years trying to earn their approval, trying to be good enough, trying to make them see me. But they never would. Not really. Because the problem was not me, it was them. A year after Kyle was sentenced, he was released early for good behavior. He served 14 months. My mother sent me an email letting me know. She said he was living at home again, working at a grocery store, trying to rebuild his life. She asked if I would consider meeting with him, hearing him out, giving him a chance to apologize. I did not respond. 2 months later, she sent another email. This one was longer. She talked about how much the family had suffered, how Dad was struggling in prison, how Kyle was depressed, how she felt like she was losing both her sons. She begged me to forgive them, to come home, to be a family again. I stared at that email for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell her that I understood, that I forgave them, that we could start over. But a bigger part of me knew the truth. Some things cannot be forgiven, not because I am cruel or heartless, but because forgiveness does not mean going back to the people who hurt you. It means letting go of the anger and moving forward. And I had already done that. I deleted the email. And I have not heard from them since. My father was released from prison a few months ago. I do not know what he is doing now. I do not want to know. The man I thought he was, the man I looked up to as a child, does not exist. Maybe he never did. Maybe I just wanted him to. People ask me sometimes if I regret cutting off my family, if I ever think about reaching out. The answer is no. I do not regret it. And I do not think about it much anymore. They made their choice. I made mine. I chose myself. I chose my peace. I chose my future. And I have never looked back. I have learned that family is not just about blood. It is about respect, trust, and loyalty. Real loyalty. Not the kind that asks you to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. I have learned that you can love people from a distance, that you can wish them well without letting them back into your life, that boundaries are not selfish, they are survival. I have also learned that some bridges are meant to be burned, and that is okay, because on the other side of that fire there is freedom, there is peace, there is a life that belongs to you and no one else. I still drive that old Corolla. It is not much, but it is mine, and no one can take it from me. I have a good job, good friends, and a future that I am building on my own terms. I do not need anyone's approval anymore. I do not need to prove myself to people who will never see me. I am enough. I always was. Sometimes I think about Kyle. I wonder if he ever thinks about what he did, if he understands the damage he caused, not just to me, but to the man he hit, to his own future. I wonder if he regrets it. But mostly, I do not think about him at all. He is part of a life I left behind, and I am okay with that. I think about the version of myself that existed a year and a half ago, the one who was so desperate for his family's love that he kept giving and giving, even when it hurt. I feel sorry for that version of me, but I am also proud of him, because he survived. He stood up for himself, he refused to be destroyed, and he walked away. That takes strength, more strength than staying ever would. So no, I do not regret it. I do not miss them, and I do not wonder what could have been, because I already know. If I had stayed, if I had forgiven them, if I had let them back in, it would have happened again. Maybe not the same way, but they would have hurt me again. Because that is what they do, that is who they are. And I deserve better than that. We all do. My worth is not determined by how my family treated me. It is determined by how I treat myself. And I treat myself with respect, with kindness, with the love I was never given by the people who were supposed to give it. That is enough. That is everything. Some bridges are meant to be burned. And on the other side, there is a life worth living. Have you ever had to cut off family to protect yourself? Drop your answer in the comments. I would love to hear your story. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, because I share more real stories like this one. Thank you for listening. I hope you find your peace, whatever that looks like. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.